Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to the genesis of where we got stuck. The 2nd of February, 1835. Lord Macaulay presents the policy for India in what is infamously called Macaulay's Minute. Let me quote from it, and I'm quoting. I have no knowledge of either Sanskrit or Arabic, but I have done what I could to form a correct estimate of their value. I have read translations of the most celebrated Arabic and Sanskrit words. I have conversed both here and at home with men distinguished by their proficiency in the Eastern tongues. I am quite ready to take the Oriental learning at the valuation of the Orientalists themselves. I have never found one among them who could deny that a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. The intrinsic superiority of Western literature is indeed fully admitted by those members of the committee who support the Oriental plan of education. If you've studied this, you know there were the Anglicists and the Orientalists when this debate on Indian education was happening. And Macaulay is telling you that even you guys, the Orientalists, don't deny that everything Western is superior. He goes on to say, and I'm quoting, it will hardly be disputed, I suppose, that the department of literature in which the Eastern writers stand highest is poetry. And I certainly never met with any Orientalist who ventured to maintain that the Arabic and Sanskrit poetry could be compared to that of the great European nations. He goes on, how then stands the case? We have to educate people who cannot at present be educated by means of their mother tongue. So we must teach them some foreign language. I repeat, we have to educate a people who cannot at present be educated by the means of their own mother tongue. General Katoch, 1835, near 200 years ago, we were told that all your literature, all your science, all your learning is replaceable with a single shelf in a European library. In fact, your civilization is so poor that it is not even worth attempting you to be educated in your own language because it is so absolutely useless. And forget us saying it, all of you agree that you're useless. That's how brainwashed you are. So now that we are saying, okay, hang on, maybe it wasn't useless. Maybe the Ramayana is as legendary as King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Now that we are rediscovering this, how do we address the world? Who are we now?
Sure. You know, one thing about Macaulay, he was promoting the interests of Britain at that time. And to promote the British interests, he had to convince the Indians that everything that they did was not up to the mark. There are three essential factors in enslaving a people. And this is what the British attempted. 1, you change the culture. 2, you change the language. And 3, you change the religion. And you will find across the world where these three factors have all come into being, those countries will never rise. They have a chance if only 1 or 2 factors have come in. But if all 3 have gone, those nations are finished. Now, he attempted that here, but he could not succeed. That's the whole point. He failed. Okay, for 100 years or so, we were down and out, 200 years. It's not a very long time in a nation's history. But ultimately, the inherent depth of India's soul, the culture, the very evolution, which, if I can use that word, over thousands of years, that cannot be destroyed simply by an Englishman who tries to change and destroy the educational system of India, which has stood the test of time. Now, I think the rejuvenation has started. So Macaulay or no Macaulay, it doesn't really matter. Nobody listens to them. India is a great nation by its own right. We are not economically that far developed yet. But give it another 10 to 20 years or 30 years.
Okay.
We will be a leading power in every space.
So we are there. We are headed there. Dr. Sharad Kohli, it's a moment before you arrive. You are in a car, obviously headed somewhere. So it will be moments when you will arrive. When you arrive and through the journey, now who are you? Because Macaulay has told you what you were 200 years ago. This is what your self-worth was. Who are you now? What have you rediscovered in yourself?
I think for me, Rishabh, at the outset, I pardon for the fumble in the name. I probably have been doing more shows with Uday, so it just got onto my lip. I beg your pardon for
Carry
that.
on, sir. No, not at all. Carry on.
For me, where I arrived today is that I arrive as an Indian who has come out of the colonial past. There is the British colonial past, but the Mughal colonial past. What does this temple signify? If I go to the temple, we were in the realm of Babri Masjid for a very long time, and I think the Mughal colonial past. We don't mind, other societies surviving with us. Well, 20% of us are Muslims. We don't mind that. We love them. We love surviving with them. We love celebrating them. But then what we don't love is a cultural invasion. So I think we are coming out of that. So then Indian today would feel, my first, feeling, Rishabh, is that, we have realized that we are coming closer to Ram. Incidentally, I'll tell you something very interesting, because Krishna happened about 5,200 years ago. That was Dwapar. Ram belonged to Treta, which was probably thousands and thousands of years before. So, people had started forgetting Ram as a Lord. We saw more temples of Krishna, if I start counting, than Lord Rama. So I think for me, this Indian is getting more connected to Ram, which is very, very important. That's my first point. My second point is we are coming out of the Mughal colonial past also, apart from the British. We've seen so many British, laws being changed, so many British things being done away with. But here we are today, one of the most iconic monuments, iconic temple coming up in Ayodhya as a stamp to the fact that we are coming out of the Mughal past. And I think that for me is very important. The children, the younger generation, Rishabh, look at the younger generation. They had no clue of what's happening. Today, the younger generation, thanks to media, thanks to social media, thanks to all this celebration happen, there are a lot of children asking, what is happening? What is this Ram temple? I must go there. I never heard children asking about temple. They are telling their parents that please take me there. I want to go there and see what is happening. Even if it's for the sake of tourism, but they are landing in a temple. That for me is the Indian.
I'm trying to figure, because Nehru had to write a book when he was in jail. He wrote two books, both are worth reading. One is called The Discovery of India, and the other one is Short Glimpses of World History. I read them both when I was in school. They're voluminous pieces. The reason he needed to write a book on the discovery of India, because the very nature that India as an entity existed was disputed by the British. They said, you want independence of India, but there is no such thing as an Indian identity. There are kingdoms in the north and kingdoms in the south and kingdoms in the east and west, and never are you one cohesive civilization. You guys don't exist. So what are you talking about independence for India? Okay. Now let me get Dr. Rao into this. Dr. Rao, now after the better part of 200 years, and I've given you the tone from Macaulay, okay, that's the tone set. This is the very beginning, ladies. This is before 1857. This is before the British government has taken over direct control of India. This is still East India Company, okay? So they've set the tone. And the other part of the tone, Dr. Rao, was to tell the Muslims of India that only we, the British, can be the guarantors of your safety. Because if the Hindu majoritarians take over, you guys are finished. Now that's the brainwashing that happened. Let us not kid ourselves that it has vanished. So there are going to be people out there who are going to be thinking, oh my God, there are no British here. What should we tell those people?
We need to tell them that the old British policy of divide and rule still continues through the media. The part of the media which is influenced by them, and through, especially in the Western world, but also some of our own Indian media. And they are still trying to divide us not only on religion, on caste, on regions, talking about North and South, East and West. These are the ways that the British ruled most of the world. And you mentioned East India Company. East India Company was the way the British Empire was created. It was not created by an army. It was created by commerce, by ruining others' industries and then foisting your own industries and your own commerce and your own trade on others. This is exactly what China is also now following. China is following the East India policy.
Yes.
So these are, and we should remember that in nature and in history, there is always a cycle. And kingdoms rise, kingdoms fall, families rise, families fall. And same way, our culture at least has survived. Many ancient cultures have been decimated, like the Roman culture,
Yes,
the
true that,
Greek culture,
Dr. Rao,
the Egyptian
that doesn't
culture.
answer my question. So the premise is this: the premise was drawn by the British. Now you can't run away from it because it is so ingrained in your psyche. It is ingrained in your psyche. Okay, they've squeezed it in and they put it into practice in 1905 when Curzon divided Bengal. Okay, so they've told for 200 years the Muslims of this country that if the Hindus run things, you've had it. So it is in your interest to support the British establishment because we are the only guarantors of the peace. 76 years later, are they right? Are they wrong? And if they are wrong, how is it hence proved?
Take the main symbol of Hinduism, that is the swastika. Swastika is not a circle, it is not a square, it is not inclusive, it is, it is not exclusive, it is inclusive. My concept of the swastika is that it reaches out to the entire world as a family. It is because it is not a square or it is not encircled. It spreads positive energy for the good of everyone. It is there in all the ancient temples, Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, Sikh, all over the Asia. And if whenever I have traveled to East Asia or Southeast Asia, I have found that their maps use swastika as a symbol of any temple. So this is our concept, and Hinduism is inclusive. The Sanatan Dharma is inclusive, and this is when we talk about Ram Rajya, we are talking about the governance following the ethical standards
Okay.
of Rama.
Yes,
and
yeah, but I'm trying to get into the crux of this because let's take it head on. Why be shy? Why be shy? I'm coming back to you in just a second, sir, to complete your thought. General Katoj, but to just stay on the substance of the thread that I'm picking up here. Okay, so once you've been told that I, as a British Christian, guarantee the safety of the Muslims of Hindustan. Okay, but if a Hindu comes and tells you that I, as a Prime Minister, an unabashed Hindu Prime Minister, not shy about my religion, not in denial about my religion, but as a proud Hindu, tell you the same, that I guarantee your safety and prosperity, it is seen with suspicion. So why did the British say it and we believed it, but if we say it today, that it is seen with suspicion?
I think it is, Rishabh, I think it is the very way we practice secularism. You see, the very concept of secularism as defined was that you appeased a section of the minorities, and anything which had to do with the major community, that is the Hindus of India, which comprised 80% plus of the population, you chose to deprive them. So any law which you made, even including in the recent ones, when you talk of the Education Act and all that, you kept that out of the schools of Christians and Muslims. So I think it needs a redefining of what secularism really is. Secularism is not mere tolerance. Tolerance is a very negative word. Secularism means acceptance. That means I must accept you the way you are.
Okay. No, let me take the thread forward. Gautam Mukherjee, so I'll make it make it an example. All right. Here I am, an individual who has chosen the path of God. Okay. I am a Hindu and I'm not a Hindu businessman or a IT professional. I am a Hindu who's chosen the path of God. I am in a mutt and I have become a seer. Okay. I don a saffron robe. Now, if you don a saffron robe, by definition, it's called Bhagwa. Okay. And it's almost, for some quarters, it's an insult. Okay. It's taken as an insult. All right. But after having donned the saffron robe, I've become a chief minister. I continue to wear my saffron robe. Can I then build your roads and colleges and deliver development, deliver the houses, deliver the water, deliver the mobile phone factories for everybody's benefit? Or am I a Hindu leader working for Hindus?
Well, it's again goes back to ancient Hindu concepts where we do not divorce church from state. We, in fact, are guided by our dharma on how to go about our administrative duties. So when you have a person in saffron robes and he's a chief minister, this is Pakka Hinduism as it was practiced thousands of years. So no, again, you see, the colonized mind wants this separation between church and state.
No, I
By the
disagree with
same
you. No,
token,
I
you've
disagree.
got
There is no
several
separation of
Muslims,
church and
we're
state
talking about
in
Muslims,
Britain.
who-
The king is the head of the Protestant church. Their marriages and their consecrations and their funerals all very much take place in the Anglican church. They don't even pretend to separate, but they tell you, Gautam Mukherjee, that we are believers in good Christian values. All right, they're not apologetic about it. But if I say I'm a believer in good Hindu values, and in the vernacular, good Hindu values means Ram Rajya, am I then a majoritarianist?
Well, I think I'm an inclusivist. What happens is both the Christianity as practiced by the Protestants and the Catholics, as well as the Muslim religion, is exclusivist. Either you belong to that religion or you're a kafir, or you're a idol worshipper or a disbeliever. Now, this kind of thing is not how we think as Hindus. We think even a Christian, even a Muslim is a Hindu, except he may not quite realize it. One of the, as I was
So what is the
beginning to
difference? For the people who think that you're saying the same thing. You are saying we are all Hindu, therefore we should all be converted one day back to Hinduism. So you are being as sophist as possible.
Not really, Rishabh. That can be an accusation, but it doesn't have legs in terms of logic. One is that I do not see you as the other. The other, the Abrahamic religions, definitely see you as the other and are suspicious of you for that reason. Now, again, the Mughals are not the Muslims. They were invaders. And you can't find a Mughal descendant amongst the Muslims. The Muslims that we have are all converts. The Christians that we have are all converts. And they follow a religion brought in from abroad. They've got problems.
They might follow a religion brought in from abroad. They might be all converts. Jinnah himself's father was Hindu. That might well be true. But the question here is, then that's exactly the question you're asking. And let jump in. Alok Mehta, help us out with this. So what are we telling modern Muslims and Christians and Sikhs and others living in this country? Are we telling them you're all Hindus?
You know, Mohan Bhagwat ji, or even before that, Professor Rajan Singh, he was Sar Sangh Chalak, then Sudarshan ji. I interviewed both of those Sar Sangh Chalak of RSS, and they used to say, I still have the copies of the interviews at the time, that 98% we believe they are all Indian, they are all Hindus. That's why what Mr. Mukherjee was also mentioning, that we feel in our culture or our Vedas, everybody is equal, and we believe that the people who are born in India, they are all Indians. And even if people are going abroad and they are living there, but they are Indians. So what is a very broad perspective, and you are very rightly said, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi or his colleagues, they say, okay, we feel proud of a Hindu, when they call Jai Shri Ram or Jai Hanuman, so people say, okay, you are some fanatic people. I think this is wrong concept, because you see, you can believe in your own religion, you can go to mosque, you can go to church. What Prime Minister Narendra Modi is still doing, he called on the Christmas day all the padris and there and spoke about it.
No. The American presidents happily go to church. They attend Christian congregations. Are we trying to say that King Charles was not consecrated in a church? Of course, he was consecrated in a church, and he's the head of state. So they're not shy about it. He was not consecrated in a temple, but he has a Hindu prime minister. So the question then and I'm trying to get to the cusp of it, and let's take it head on. Honestly, none of us have come on that definition. We are in the process of discovery of what it means, what is the role, what is the responsibility. We accept that it is reasonable to say that there is an arc of history bending towards justice, that wrongs that happened in terms of the destruction of all the Hindu sites in North India, not one of them, all of them, okay, that a revival and renewal takes place, that there is a pride that should be taken in this, that a renaissance of Indic culture needs to happen. And ancient Indic culture predating Islam and Christianity by definition is somehow called Hindu culture, okay. That's just a point of definition if it predates other religions. But in a very real sense, and let's hit the cusp of the matter, Dr. Rao, for a modern Indian Muslim who's watching the ceremonies in Ayodhya, at the Ram Mandir, at the consecration, he has been told for 200 years that the Hindus are out for revenge, that the day they raise their heads, they will ruin you. And if he has a latent thought or she has a latent thought in their mind, what is then the periodicity and the effective nature of addressing it?
It is about education, about awareness. And I'll come back to what I was saying a bit earlier. Hinduism is a bit different from all other established religions. If you see the major religions, both not only the Abrahamic religions, but even Buddhism, you have a feeling that there is only one way to God, etc. There is this is what everyone is talking about. There is exclusivism. Whereas why Hinduism is inclusive is, it is not like the other religions. It's more like a culture. And a question was often asked, aren't you people, has been asked of me over the years, aren't you people confused? You have got so many gods, you have got Ramayana, you have got Mahabharata, you have got so much. My answer to them is, look at nature. Nature didn't say there is only one fruit, king of fruit, only mango. There are so many fruits. There are so many variations of the mango fruit, and they're all living in nature side by side. A mango tree doesn't completely replace all other fruit trees. So same way, please look at Hinduism as a form of nature rather than as the definition of religion that you people have. It is a live and let live policy. And Rama is more than a religious head. It is a form of governance where ethics, where inclusivity, and where identity, a cultural identity helps you develop peace, prosperity, mutual living, and good governance. And this is where yoga, Ayurveda, and various of our food traditions differ. When I was asked in foreign countries as to how come you have you are saying that you people have a lot of inclusivity, I take out the Indian note and show them. I said, these are all the official languages on our Indian note. Forget all the non-official languages which exist in our country. No. This is the variety we have.
So there's no doubt about it. I maintain the premise I always have all my life and will always. If you want to figure out in 92, if I remember correctly, Francis Fukuyama wrote the book, The End of History, and he followed it up with another compendium called The Last Man. And the premise was that for thousands of years, humanity is trying to figure out the best way of functioning as a society. So just like philosophers are trying to teach us the best way of figuring out, or people who believe in religion, the best way of living your life in a pious way, in a contributory way, through laws and morality and ethics, humanity has been trying to figure it out. And he says, okay, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, we've now figured out that liberal free market democracy is the end goal. That's the best formula for society. All right. Then, of course, Huntington writes The Clash of Civilizations, and we now know the chapter is not closed. The best answer to finding the quote unquote end of history is in India. Okay. I don't know what it is. It is going to have to be a process of rediscovery. But somebody today needs to sit, and perhaps one of the individuals sitting with me or somebody watching this telecast, Somebody needs to write that book. You need to write it for me. You need to write it for all my panelists on the rediscovery of India, on what it means, on who we are, where we should aspire to be. Because, and Dr. Kohli, here's the crux of the problem. If you and I sit here today and we say, oh, look, you're all Hindus. All your ancestors were Hindus. This is the return of Ram Rajya. The Hindus are back. It comes across as troublesome for many people, and understandably. They're not understanding the sentiment from which it came. They're seeing you at face value as a reminder which many people will perceive as a threat.
Absolutely. You're right, Rishabh, because that's because of the divide we have created over the years. And I go back to the question. This is related to the question you asked one of the panelists earlier, that why when the Britishers said that we are here to protect the Muslims, but why when the same statement is made by our Prime Minister, for example, why is that statement not admitted? Why is that not believed? I mean, there are two simple reasons, because those guys, they ruled us for 200 years. And this government has only ruled for 10 years. So that's my first answer. My second answer is, the simple reason is that the spirit of non-tolerance has creeped into the society so deeply. And the narrative which is being created against Hinduism, against the Hindu style of living, against the Hindu way of life, I think that narrative has caught up with people's mind. And that is what has created the divide. I agree that we were all Hindus earlier. Islam is 1400 years old. Christianity is 24 years old. So before that, there was, by the way, there is nothing called Hindu, Rishabh. There is no such word in scriptures called Hindu. It is the word Indus, which is the original word.
Yes.
And somehow it got modified into Hindu. It is called Sanatan. There is no concept
so
of
Hinduism are just what the people who live in India do. Okay, that's it. That's who they are.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.